Are you gonna play this shit? This game?
Oh, this game? I don't know. Probably not. I think I'm gonna play Fence next.
Dude, you get so into the music. You get so hyped. It's really cool. I like it a lot. And it feels like you're playing a game that's like exercising your reflexes. I don't know. I took a liking to it. Perhaps because it was 29 cents.
You mean free?
Yeah, free.
Just copy it.
Yeah, I copied it. This song is so tight. Look at this asshole. Fat, he looks healthy for a 50-year-old. Assholes, dude. They're also mean.
You could be talking to either one of us.
Yeah, who knows? It's probably me. Because of the Aris' fat comments.
All a bunch of charges.
Boom.
Like
Hey, what's up, Internet? How's it going?
what's going on, guys?
How's the volume? Can you guys hear us okay? This is a first. Dan is a guest live, guest.
Guess a lot of guys.
Yeah, a live guest live. Anyway, this is Dan. Internet, if you don't know who Dan is, what are some of your greatest accomplishments?
Well, right now, just started scratching my
I
balls.
know he has a lot of problems with yeast and
Yeah.
what was the other thing? Folliculitis or whatever. He's got a lot of issues.
What's up, suckers?
So,
It was good.
No, you started in tag.
I started in Tekken 3,
Uh-huh.
and I sucked at that, and I played Tag, and I got a little bit better, Tag 1, and then Tag 4 came out. And
Tag 4, huh?
Tag 4 came out. Soul Calibur, no. Tekken 4.
Tag 4, that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one that came out, and I played Craig, and I was the only Craig who played in the Soul Calibur.
What about
the Tekken 4 National Tournament?
Jaha? He played. Jaha was so
But
whack
Jaha
with Mark.
didn't get into Nationals.
Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, he qualified for. He won SoCal Regionals with Marduk. Was known to be one of the best Marduk players in the country, probably the world at the time at least. But Soul Calibur was your big thing. You did really well in that game. Went with me to France. I think you got 7th, right?
I think so.
7th place. Also, in my eyes, your most notable victory was. Actually not even really a real victory because it was just me observing you playing against Dan the Nightmare.
The first of 10?
Yeah, just in general. Remember when he was staying at your house?
Yeah, do they know who Dan the Knight is?
Yeah, most people who know who Dan the Nightmare is. He was like the best in the world. He won Evo. 2nd place that year was Semi. That was in 2003. And he was hella fucking good.
Yeah, but even before that, then we were like, who is this guy? He's like,
yeah.
Why did we know that?
It's because of WC Maxi. So remember when Soul Calibur 2 first started in the arcades, and like we didn't really know that much about the history of Soul Calibur because everyone who played that shit was a bunch of gay guys and nobody really even knew them.
Yeah.
There was it was just Shafi and WC Maxi and Schreier.
There was like 5
sucking
people.
each other's dicks all the time, you know? So there wasn't really a heavy competition.
And we ran those guys out of town.
Well, I mean,
Soul Calibur 2.
basically, towards the end, I mean, basically what ended up happening in the internet was, so there was all this hocus pocus about like previous competitions and stuff, but when Calibur 2 came out, it was like, they were all myths, you know, we didn't really care, right? It was like, Shafi and S-Rare and Semi, and then to them, they would always talk about Dan the Nightmare. He was like the Nightmare from France. He was just like a prodigy and everything.
Yeah.
And it was all bullshit until he came here and fucked everyone up.
Yeah, he was really good. I remember watching videos of him before he came over here.
Yeah.
And we were like, this guy doesn't look good at all.
He sucks.
Yeah, and I bet the same might be true if you watch the videos of Aris versus him right now. You'd be like, this guy doesn't look that strong.
His playstyle was a lot about really simple decision making. He did not, like, he played kind of like Dan, where he used a limited amount of moves, but he would even reduce it to a limited amount of strategy. Like, he would never duck. And if he wanted you to duck, he wouldn't do lows. He would do highs, as you were mentioning earlier. We were just watching some of those matches. It was really interesting.
Yeah, his strategy was to, like, get you to duck by doing highs, to make it so that, oh, I can get a free hit on him.
Yeah, and then he would just read when you're going to duck and then go for 3B.
Yeah,
you know?
It's pretty interesting. But the thing, he didn't step at all. The only time he moved was when a move made him move, which is really weird.
Yeah, he used moves to defend or GI to defend.
Yeah.
He didn't, but he also did step guard too. And one of the things we want to do on this show is to show you guys about the real correct high level way to play this game. And I've been watching a lot of people play recently. I've been watching people compete, and a lot of people are asking me about the game, you know, and I feel like that's the #1 problem. There's 2 problems. People don't step guard and generally move correctly, and they also don't understand the entire spectrum of the GI system. So I think that's one thing that I want people to understand. If they want to play this game, you should play it in the correct way, you know, or at least understand what all the options are. So if someone else that you play against is using these strategies, you're not going to just be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Because the first reaction to these things has always been like, it's too cheap. But that's not true at all, you know? That's one of the reasons why a lot of people think this is a turtley game or really, really defensive. But it's only that way if you don't understand the entire package. You know, there's a lot of ways. Do you consider this to be a turtley game?
No, at least not when we were playing.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And he was mentioning earlier how the modern day fighting game player would play this game, and I think that's an interesting topic too. But if you watch a lot of the, you know, highest level matches that there are, you'll notice that they're always up in each other's face, and there's a big tug of war at all times. So
yeah, it's totally like that. Like, I feel like I can play aggressive and still do good against you. And vice versa and stuff like that. And especially, you know what I think makes this possible is that in this game, there's a lot of things that on block give advantage.
And hit, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I was comparing it to Tekken. And I feel like in Tekken, the big problem is that there aren't that many moves that can keep your offense going. And if there is a move that can keep your offense going, there's always a limited number of things that the character can do. Like, for example, Brian's back 1 on block in Tekken gives him like +3 or something on block. And +3 is plus, but they designed that character to not really be able to take full advantage of +3. Like, it's not really that dope of a situation for him, though it's a good situation. While in this game, for example, we have Valdo here, 22K on hit is going to give you like a huge advantage. And it's going to give you so much frame advantage that you can't do shit. If he even tries to attack, he's going to get hit no matter what. He can't even jump. It just gets in the air, you know? Yeah. So it's really like there's a million situations like this in this game. And that's why I think it's really easy to pick up, because all you have to do really is, if I take a new player and explain to them this strategy, they can implement it. It's simple. You hit with this move. If you hit with it, you're in such an advantageous position that they can't do anything about that. And once they start chilling for you to just do whatever you want, you can start doing more down kick. You know, and these kinds of, it's such a simple idea. They're all over the game. It's like sprinkled all over every character. I mean, what's an example for you? AGA or something. You know, any one of those frame traps. You know?
Well, I think this since it was 6A.
Yeah, see, that's another one.
Oh wow.
It's a trade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, so these types of things...
For a lot of characters, I get the hit.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of frame traps. Like, literally, if they try to move... Or what's another one? Be back. That one, or... isn't there one with him that... Yeah, that one, too. That's a good one. If you block that, you can't do shit. Except that. See, like, you get it. That was an A. A's gonna beat you.
You sure? Maybe if I do it. Yeah, you're right.
A's gonna beat you. It's because Valdo's A's are the only ones that are 12 in this game.
Oh.
Every character, he's the only character that has a 12 frame A in this game, so it's kind of weird. Other characters, I think, you would high crush the A because they're fast, and then the slower characters wouldn't be able to reach you in time. You know? But, I mean, yeah, this game is really, really simple. Anyway, so one of the things I wanted to show you guys, like I mentioned, one of the #1 problems is, in this game, you don't ever have to just stand there and block. I watched people from the East Coast play this game, you know, the newer Soul Calibur community. I watched them play this game, and that's the #1 problem. When it becomes like an engagement situation where we're right next to each other, they all just stand there and block and wait for someone to make that decision. That's really not what you want to do in this game. Instead, what you want to do is you want to always step. Because stepping while blocking in this game is actually the same thing as blocking. And I'll give you an example. Do a 3B into a K. So this situation is like a classic Soul Calibur situation. You block a 3B, and you know you have to deal with my backstance. So if you block a 3B and you step, Valdo's step isn't that great. But as you can see, there's nothing he can do. He can't throw out of that stance. He can't do any lows out of that stance. So it's like, there's no reason not to step.
I can do it.
Ah, that's a shitty low. I mean like something fast enough to beat step,
Yeah.
you know? So this scenario you're seeing right now, how he has nothing fast enough to beat step, is the scenario basically almost all the time. There are very, very few characters that have a move that can really reliably beat step unless you make a hard read. So in these scenarios, it's like, why would you not do a step? And basically, if let's say I were a better character, like a character, Valdo's step is really small. So let me go pick up a better character to give you a good example of why it's important. A better character, a better step character. Cervantes actually has the best step in the game, so it's a good example. But a lot of people are having trouble defending, and I've noticed this. You know, I'm watching people play, and it's really the #1 reason, the #1 problem. So, same thing. See how that whiffed? Now do 3BA. So it's like there's nothing he could do. What can he do about that? I just blocked the 3B, and he can't do the K if okay, so do that again, okay?
Oh, the K?
Yeah, do the K. So it whiffed, I get a free launcher, right? I visually saw that K whiffed, and I got a free launcher. Now he does the A, and I'm going to block it. No problemo. And if the game wouldn't crash, I'd be able to do this to the second hit, and I'd be able to GI that. I mean, basically, right now, that's not a Cervantes trick. You know, this is a system trick. Yeah. So this is one of the things that you can do with any character, you know? And
as long as their step is big enough.
But even if their step isn't big enough, right, there's no downside. Nothing's going to happen. So the moral of the story is you should always, always be step guarding. Because it's the same thing as guarding, except there is a chance that you'll make something whiff. And if you're sharp, you can visually see that thing whiffed and then punish accordingly. So that's really the way the game is played at a high level. So now that you understand that instead of just standing there, in any situation it's better for you to move, you have to understand how to do it right. The right way to do step is really important. So there is no command capture, whatever the fuck it's called,
where it shows
history, yeah, command history in this game, which is absurd. I can't believe that. But the right way to step is, first, if you ignore your right hand, you just tap up or tap down with the left stick. If you want to step into the foreground, you tap up, and if you want to step into, background, tap up, foreground, tap down. And that's what it's going to look like. So you can do it with any character. Some characters have a weaker step, some have a stronger. Astroth is small, Valdo and Talon is very small, but then characters like Ivy and Yoshi and Cervantes have a very large step. So for these characters, it's going to be more beneficial, but regardless, you're going to want to do it. So now at this point, you've understood that a tap in those directions is going to give you a step. But let's try the situation again with the 3B. Yeah. So if I just do a tap, it's going to still step. However, it's no longer an option select. So if he does the A, it's going to hit. There's no option select there. I'm basically doing a hard read to beat the K out of Knight backstance there. But in reality, if he ends up picking some other move to do, I'll be hit by that. So the solution now is to understand that the step itself has the ability to guard during it. So what you do is you just, as soon as you're ready to step, you initiate that tap, and then you just hold guard. That's it. It's very similar to Korean backdash in the context that you're able to move and block at the same time. So in Tekken, Korean backdash lets you back up, and as you backdash, each backdash is going to happen no matter what the opponent does. However, if they happen to connect with you, sometimes shit.
Yeah, because in the camera view is trippy as hell.
Why? I told you. I told you.
What can we do? We only have one camera.
Yeah.
Passive assassin.
The only way to do it.
What were you saying?
I totally lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
It's okay. Something about you being gay.
Yeah. Well, you can guard the whole time you're stepping.
Yeah. As soon as you initiate that step, you're going to be able to block, even though your character is not in the guarding animation. You know, like how every character has like a neutral stance when you're not doing anything, and then when you hold guard, they shift a little bit. Nightmare, for example, is a piece of shit because let go of guard, just standing there, Nightmare is a lot easier to throw than he is when he's guarding. If you hold guard with Nightmare, for some reason, throws will just go through him. Not every character, but some characters. So you have to understand that each character has a different standing hitbox, right? And just because you're not seeing the guard initiate during the step does not mean you're not blocking. You're literally just blocking when you do this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no reason not to.
Yeah, like I'm blocking this whole time.
Right.
As soon as I start pressing the guard.
Exactly.
And
So there's no way to hit him.
So, like, even though it doesn't look like it, if he does that A, like you're seeing, it'll stop me right there.
Right, and it lets it go down, right? Sidestep down. See, like, if I do a B, it's going to whiff, and he's going to be able to, boom, see that it whiffed, and do his whiff punisher, and it's going to be very, very advantageous for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's really no reason not to do it. You just have to do it all the time. Be very diligent with it, because it can feel unnatural at first, especially if you're a Soul Calibur 3 player.
Yeah.
That's a big factor.
I don't really agree with all the time, but probably more often than not. When you're...
Well, I think that if you're not going to be doing something else, you should be step guarding.
That's a
It's not like step guarding is the best thing to do at all times. For example, if I see Dan do down back A and charge it, right? I'm not going to want to step guard that. I'm going to want to jump that, you know, and you can see it. So, obviously, if you're not step guarding, you're going to want to, well, I saw that, let me jump over it. But if it's a situation where you don't know what they're going to do and you don't have a read on them, where you want to do a jump attack or you want to do an interrupt, the best thing to do is to block and to step guard. Because otherwise, in another game, the best thing to do is block. And this is essentially like an extension of blocking. This is like power blocking, because you're just going to be fishing. You're blocking, but you're fishing at the same time. And there's so many scenarios like that. Now that you guys know that step guard is super good in this game, you're going to be wondering, well, that's really cheap. How do I beat it? Now, there are many, many ways to beat it, but the #1 primary way to beat it is throws. Throws are really good against step guard because they have some tracking, and some characters have more tracking to one or another side. Like Nightmare's throws track more to, let's try that out. I'm going to do a kick and then, that pushes you too far out. You do this shit and then you throw.
How's that pushing? It's not a good test.
Cervantes' step is so good. Cervantes has a really good step.
You need
but
to do the knee. You're pushing it to the side.
It doesn't matter. Either way, I'm going to be able to step it. His step is too good. See, that's the thing. Like, this game has really good balance. It's not the kind of balance that you get from Tekken Tag 2, where every character is very similar. This game's balance is different in the sense that where Cervantes is weak in one department, he's exceptionally strong in another department. Like, for example, he has very few good lows. So, he's, you know, like, his lows are really shitty. And in exchange, he gets really great step. So, in a situation like this where, you know, Nightmare's throw would be beating my step guard with any other character, Cervantes is able to get around that and, you know, do well with the step guard. But basically, the way to beat step guard is to throw and to do lows. And the lows that you do have to be something quick, like Nightmare has a Hell Sweep. Hell Sweep is really good against step guard because if you've already committed to the step, it's going to hit no matter what. It's just always going to be like really, really good option. And there's other ones too. What do you do to deal with step?
I do 2K or 1K.
Or AGA, 2A, that's a good one. See, you don't necessarily, if you know the opponent is step guarding, you don't necessarily have to hit them with anything. Because this game is so offense-oriented, and there's so many moves on block that cause frame advantage, you don't necessarily have to hit them. So, if you're thinking with the mentality of, okay, this guy's right in front of me, what do I hit him with if he's going to step guard? That's not necessarily the best idea with every character. Some characters, to beat step guard, have to force them to block something. Like with Yoshi, if you want to stop step guard, the best thing to do is do a 1A. Now that 1A, yeah, Stone Fists. 1A, it's going to make him at least block it. But that's not what you want. What you want is what's going to happen after the 1A, after he blocked it. You get that 50-50 mix-up. because you decide how many spins you want to do or how many you don't want to do. So basically, if you think about just the mentality, this is the problem that people have with this game, I think. I think they initially think, well, step guard is too good. This is a turtley game. They're going to just be able to block everything. But in reality, you don't have to be thinking of it as, I know he's going to step guard and I can't hit him with anything. What you should be thinking of is, I know he's going to step guard. What position can I put him in that's not advantageous because I know he's going to step guard? And this game has a lot of that tug of war.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. Forrest mentioned something a while back that it's a great way to get away from the edge if you're afraid of being wrong.
You have to.
Which that's a good point.
Well, let's put this scenario together. So you just got me cornered. We're playing a match. This is a match right here, right? Before step guard was discovered, Nightmare in this situation was a fucking nightmare. It's over.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in this position before step guard, you're dead.
Yeah.
Do a 6A. He's got 6A, you can't move in any direction. If I'm trying to get away from the ring, you've got moves that push me back to the ring.
Yeah.
Very cheap. Let's go back in that situation. So, from here, he's got 6-6 KB, he's got 6A, he's got AGA. All these moves are just totally, like, just really, really good without step guard. Yeah, crouch throws that ring out. But now that you have step guard, from this position, if he tries any of those things, I'm going to be able to get out. And if I don't get out, at least I'm going to block them. So try it again, just whatever. See, I'm slowly inching my way out of there, and then, eventually you'll get out and get wrong out. But basically, that's the only final, defense you have. When you're in that position, you can't do... Not every character has something that's going to ring you out from behind. Like, Nightmare has 1A. So he can do something like that. 1B, sorry. But other characters don't necessarily have that. So you have to just get out of dodge. And the only way to get out of dodge safely is with these step guards. It's the only way to do it. It's like, and if you're not doing it, you're fucking up big time.
Yeah, and I can imagine if you're so new that you don't even know step guard exists, the way you think this game works is I attack, then you attack. Right. I attack, then you attack. It would be really boring to play that way.
And that's funny because that's what the game degenerated to after this game came out. All of the following Soul Calibur games that were released after this, they took away a lot of these options. They took away step guard, they took away while landing attacks, they took away the shuffle you get for stepping and all that stuff. So what it ended up doing, and this is what you'll see when you see Soul Calibur 3, 4, and 5 players play this game, is the tug of war is literally like a back and forth in the new games. And even in Soul Calibur 5, they took out GI. You have to have fucking meter to do it. So
what? Really?
Yeah, you can't even GI. You have to use meter to do it.
What? Oh my god, that is such a bad idea.
Isn't it? Like, even in concept, like,
yeah.
Dude, it's like there were websites named after GI. It's like it's a big part of the game. It needs to be like fucking accessible by everyone. And they just took that out, Now you can GI, but and they made GIs really good. They made them so that they're active for a really long time and they beat all attacks. Like low, mid, high, basically anything.
So Grace is talking about how step guard actually did exist. You're right about that, but it would be vulnerable in some games. I know Soul Calibur 3, it was just like...
Soul Calibur 3, it was like useless because...
It was there, but you get hit.
Yeah, it was too small. And I'm pretty sure that it existed in Soul Calibur 1, but not in the same way. As far as I know, you could not block the entire animation. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I remember it existing, but it wasn't like a true universal defense like it was in this game. Yeah. So
is that the real Goofus, the Baldo Goofus?
Yeah, that's Goofus.
What's up, Goofus?
Yeah. I was telling that story about how we called the wheelchair security guard up.
God, that was crazy.
Slippery ass motherfucker.
I can't believe he didn't get alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Jesus.
That was when he was falling into your bag.
That
shit was hilarious, dude.
Does he even remember that night?
I should tell that story.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I don't remember what Evo it was, but Dan had to leave early because he had some kind of business meeting, and he bought this suitcase. He bought the suitcase just for this purpose because he needed to take a suit to Evo because he needed a suit for the business trip that he was leaving from Evo to go to. So he bought this suitcase. It was really big, like some shit from Joe versus the Volcano, and And he had a suit in there that was iron, so it was like hung. And Goofus came into the room, and this guy got so fucking drunk, and this slippery motherfucker, when he gets drunk, he's like Valdo. He's so covered in slime, you can't even touch him. And so he got hella drunk, and no matter what he did, he kept on stepping on Dan's fucking luggage.
No, he was literally rolling.
He would like fall into it and fuck up Dan's luggage, no matter where Dan put it, right? So by the end of the day, Goofus ends up getting so fucked up, so drunk, that he just goes into the bathroom, throws up, and then passes out in the bathroom. And I'm trying to get this motherfucker out of my hotel room, man. This guy's just passed out in my, in my bathroom. So I think, all right, what are we gonna do? We call the front desk, and I'm like, look, listen, there's a guy drunk in my room. I've never seen him before. I don't know. Bring the security up immediately to get this motherfucker out of there. And right before they hang up, bring a wheelchair. I never ended up finding that picture, dude.
Really?
Yeah, do you have that?
I don't know. It's pretty funny.
It's a really good picture.
Because the security guard is like, peace.
Yeah, we're all like, fuck you. And the security guard's like, yeah. And Goofus is like passed out on a chair and shit.
He was so wet. Like, we were trying to, we needed like 4 guys to lift him into the wheelchair.
That's what happened. We tried picking him up.
Yeah.
And he just would slither his way out of that shit.
It looked like when you try to lift him, your shirt looked like you just worked out.
Yeah, it was super impressive.
Nasty.
Anyway.
Eye mites. Just as bad.
Yeah. Yeah, you got some problems too, man. But those were good times. Anyway.
Goofus says he has a picture.
Oh, Goofus, put a link in the chat.
It's pretty awesome.
Put that shit up.
I don't remember seeing you after that, Goofus. That was the last time I saw you on that trip, I think.
Yeah, you left.
Did you see him?
Yeah, we after that.
I remember what happened is he was like sitting on my bag. He was rolling off the bed and sitting on my bag. And then after 4 times, I'm like, fuck this, I'm going to move my bag because I got important shit in there. And then he did a somersault onto it after I moved it.
He did like a crazy cartwheel on the bed and then fell into the bag afterwards.
Yeah, that was frustrating.
Yeah, he's a pro. Anyway, so we were talking about step guard. That shit is extremely important. Ways to beat it, I mentioned, are lows that track as well as throws. That's how you have to beat it, but if you don't have those options, you can use things like A or... that's another thing in this game that people don't really understand. So we mentioned the tug of war in the future Soul Calibur games and how it's really about a commitment. Even moving in those games is a major commitment because you get counter hit. In this game, you don't necessarily have to commit. Even if you commit to a jump, you don't have to do anything unless something whiffs. So you could jump and not do anything, or you could jump and land with something, or you could jump and do whatever you want. You know, there's a lot of options. So that tug of war is not necessarily functioning in the same way in this game as it did in as it does in the new Soul Calibur games. And one major thing there, as far as the tug of war, is what Dan mentioned earlier about moves having frame advantage. So in this game, you have a lot of opportunities to set up traps. Now, one simple trap with every character is just the standing A, which that doesn't exist in the new Soul Calibur games. So in the new Soul Calibur games, the basic fighting theory of those games is more about commitment. So in those games, you won't be able to... Let's show Yoshi's. This will be a great example. But in those games, you have to commit to an AA to get your frame advantage and damage. Which, if you ask me, makes 0 sense. Because logically, you would think that one should do one thing and the other should do another thing. So, to me, logic would tell me that you have access to a single A, which should give you frame advantage, and you have access to an AA, which will give you damage. So you have these 2 options. That makes logical sense. You can agree with that too, right?
I don't know if I would think of it. I think it's a brilliant system. It's the way it should work.
That's the way it is in this game.
Yeah.
But in the new games, if you do a single A, you got less damage and disadvantage on hit and block. In this game, you have options on block even to continue your offense. So for example, against Nightmare, like do a 6A after blocking a standing A. See, that's like one of his fastest moves, but he can't interrupt this. What else do you have that's hella fast? 6-6K? Or yeah, standing K. Try an A.
Okay.
See, so even if you... No, you do a standing K, yeah. So even if you have, like, his fastest move, I can still interrupt it with an A on block. So if you can imagine, this system of tug of war in this game is completely different, and that's exactly why the newer Soul Calibur players are not able to grasp it as well. You don't have to overextend yourself with a BB, you know, and that's what makes the system like so crisp, because now that you have step guard, right, at a high level, you're not going to overextend yourself. So if he's doing step guard, I'm not going to want to do BB, because then it's going to be an even bigger whiff. I'm going to want to just do a single B, which could make it so that he's not able to punish my whiff. So it's really about picking your spots and choosing. Now that makes you think, okay, this seems like a turtley game. You can't overextend. You have to play it safe. Now, if you're playing this style of A, down A, forward A, poking, turtley poking style, that's what opens up the GI system in this game. So this kind of offense is going to be very easy for him to pick up the timing on, and GI. You can agree with that, right?
Yeah.
So let's say in a situation like I mentioned, for me to beat Dan's step guard right now, I'm going to want to do a 1A, and then I'm going to want to do something afterwards, right? To take advantage of him being still, right? And, you know, for him to not deal with this mix-up, all he has to do is start GIing, which is what's going to happen eventually. He's going to get tired of that. And once he starts GIing, we have to start dealing with the GI system in this game, which is extremely unique and riddled with all kinds of interesting features. So,
features.
Yeah, features. Well, there's only one of them is a bug, right?
Well, I don't know what else you're thinking.
2G, right? That's it. There's nothing else that's a bug.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what else there is to think about. Oh, you're talking about the Yomi?
Yeah, the mind game involved.
Yeah, only the 2G was working. But I think, isn't there something, maybe that's only in 3, where you can, like, re-attack
That's
really
3.
quick?
Yeah.
That's 3? Okay.
Yeah. And that exists in this game, too. Let me see if I can show you. GI the second hit. That's not good. Okay, try this.
The whole time. Do I need to move forward?
Just GI anything. That.
Wow, that's crazy.
So there's something in this game called the just frame chicken. It's really, really like not that practical. I almost don't even feel like bringing it up because it's never really been used in a high level because it requires too much to set up. But the way it works is if you do an attack and then you immediately buffer an attack after that, so you have to do 2 consecutive attacks perfectly buffered. If the second one is GI'd, you can throw after the GI happens to you. So it's really not, you have to hit down forward plus throw at the same time right when you get GI'd. And as I mentioned, the amount of setup it requires makes it not a viable strategy. Because if you had that hard of a read that your opponent was going to GI the next attack, the best thing would have been for you to do a fake and then continue. Because fakes in this game are really good. And it's really, really super important. But anyway, moving on to GIs as I was talking about it. So the way the GI system in this game works is forward plus G does mid and high attacks. But it's a little bit tighter. It's like a smaller window for it to work. So I'll give you an example of that. I'm just going to do 2 highs and you can GI that. Now once he puts me into that situation, he gets X amount of frames where I'm not supposed to be able to duck. So what that means is, block, sorry, I'm glad you're here. Not supposed to be able to block. So the only thing I can do in this post-GI situation is re-GI, right? That's the way the game was developed. Now, later on, it was discovered that Nightmare, for example, do his 3B, and then just hold guard afterwards. So if you do a 3B with Nightmare and hold guard, you get all kinds of shit for free on him. Maybe not that, but tons of stuff. BB even. So if that were the case, obviously Nightmare would not be that great of a character at a high level. I mean, his 3B is like legendary as one of the best moves in any Soul Calibur game. You know, this game is really cheap. But the only reason that 3B is good is because that 2G was discovered. Now, what that means is when he's in Night Backstance, he's able to unnaturally block when he's not supposed to be able to block. So do a 3B again and then do a 2G. See how he can block there? That's not supposed to be able to happen. That is a system-wide bug in this game that exists for certain scenarios Not every scenario. Yeah, it's not easy to do. It is a semi-just frame to block after 3B like that. But it is possible. Even the fastest moves cannot punish 3B with this feature, after this feature came out. So then it was discovered that this 2G ability to block when you're not supposed to, that unnatural ability to block, applies to GI. So again, if you GI the second hit of that, it's alright. And then just do like a, okay, just do a 3B and we'll show how it's guaranteed. No, do a GI and then post GI 3B.
Okay.
So I was just holding block there and I was unable to defend against that with blocking. Now, do the same thing again. One more time. So my options as of the release of this game are to GI, re-GI, with forward or back. Now you have to remember that forward beats mids and highs and back beats mids and lows. Now this is where the mind game evolves, because Nightmare no longer is able to get this unblockable 3B on you because you're retaliating. The next step in this traditional Soul Calibur mind game is he's either going to do a guard cancel, which is going to make me GI and whiff the GI so he can punish the GI, or he's going to do a move that's very slow. So let's try. You do the same scenario. I'm going to do 6A, 6A, and then you're going to GI me and then do like 6XB or something. Okay. Something slow. Oops. So what happened there is exactly what would happen in the next level. Like I would anticipate his 3B with my GI, and his slow move would be able to come out and punish my whiff GI. Now here's the next stage of the mind game. If he does the same thing over again, and I do 2G, there was no whiff there. That was a good example too. Since there's no GI whiff there, I'm able to block that that 6-6B or whatever he does because it was too slow. So 2G is this new thing that's been introduced into this GI system that basically at this point seems like it breaks the system. Like, oh, this is really cheap. How are you going to beat this? Because there's no whiff, so what are you going to bait out? Now this is where the system evolves a little more. So if someone is consistently 2G'ing, what that tells you is they are just standing there. They're just going to block right after your GI. Now you know the information that nothing you do is going to hit him. He can block anything. So the next step is, what can I do when he's standing there? Obviously, throws. Throws are what you do, as well as lows that knock down. That's how the GI system and the 2G system all ties together in the end. Basically, if you have a read on your opponent that they're gonna 2G, you get a free throw attempt in this game. That could mean something really, really good to you. Like, let's say you're in a position where this throw attempt is gonna ring out. So it's like you get a guaranteed situation where they have to break the throw. And as and you mentioned earlier that you like this, but in this game, throws look exactly the same. A throw, B throw, it doesn't matter. Visually, you're gonna have to guess 50-50. It's either gonna be A or B. And there's no 2-button throw escapes. So you have to pick which one you're going to do. And you said you like that, right?
Yeah, it's great.
But you think it should be that way in Tekken?
Yeah.
I don't think it should be that way in Tekken.
I think it should be.
Because if you, well, I think in Tekken, if you do that, throws will be really cheap. Well, but then again, in that game, there's such a cheap crush system. I don't know. It's hard to say.
The game is too tournament, in my opinion.
You think so?
I think that when I watch a modern Tekken match, it's all about positioning and seeing who will fuck up first.
Yeah, usually defense is definitely the best offense, and the better you are in that game, the better defense is.
Yeah.
You know?
In this game, if I know what you're going to do, I can give you a legitimate 50-50, because you can't tell which throw this is. That's one throw, that's another throw.
Yeah, they both look exactly
the same, so you really are getting a 50-50. And if you are the guy who's throwing, you deserve that advantage because, you know, you read that they weren't going to do anything but block.
Yeah, and that's really how it ends up tying together, because throws become so much more valuable later in the game's lifespan, because just standing there and blocking, quote unquote, is what will happen at a high level more often than not. So you have an easier time reading when a throw will hit, because a step guard, a 2G, or any of those scenarios is where a throw is very valuable. And as you can imagine, that really shifts the tier list too. For example, Nightmare, his throw range is really, really good. And Yoshi, his throw damage is really, really good. His throw damage is exceptionally high. Astaroth, his throw damage is fucked up. It's like, you're just, really, you have these amazing powerhouse tools where you're just like, one GI and they could be fucked. So it's really, really important in this game. I don't know if I would prefer it in Tekken, but in this game, throws are really valuable. And everything you said right there about how the thrower deserves to get that 50-50 thing, you know, that's the main reason why I can't believe people think that this is a turtley game. Throws and lows in this game are fucked up.
Yeah.
Dude, this game, I think, I can't think of any Tekken ever that's had offense that was this, like, strong. Like, every character has solid, like, offense. And if they don't have good lows, they either have decent throws or they have situations where they can continue to attack you over and over. Like, Taki, she doesn't have a great low, but she's designed to be able to flow and, like, constantly attack. And like, who's another character? Like, Cervantes, you know, he doesn't have that many good lows, but his step is so good that he can always change the tug of war, you know?
And GI itself is a really good, like, balancing factor because everybody can use it to get out of something, except for unblockables, right?
Yeah, usually in this game, you can't GI unblockables, but GI exists in such a universally useful way, and because of 2G and everything, it's really, really like it ties everything together. The worst characters can beat the best characters because of it. Step Guard and GI and the 2G system really balances everything out as a whole. And of course, this game has shitty characters and good characters, but overall, it's pretty. I mean, you remember that guy Hayate, right?
Yeah, the Yun player?
Yeah, there was in France, they had a team tournament, and this guy, this French Yunsung player, kicked the shit out of 5 fucking Shanghua players right in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
Yunsung arguably was the worst character in this game, and X is arguably, well, I think everyone agrees, is the best character in this game. So we watched bottom tier kick the shit out of a whole team of top tiers.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this game is really, really balanced, in my opinion. And it's balanced in a more fun way than Tekken Tag 2 is balanced.
Yeah, and I like how, I'm not saying this is not true in modern Tekkens, but I like how I've got options. Like, for example, like after the GI, I can, if I think you're going to re-GI, I can do a slow move, or I can do a move that will escape what you're trying to GI, or I can do a throw, or a slow wouldn't work in that, a throw wouldn't work in that situation. But I think that, I like that there's many different ways to solve a problem, and that's true especially with the characters you're using. Yeah,
this game has a really interesting and robust cast of characters, and you were mentioning that earlier. The archetypes are so different that just about anyone will find one that meshes well with their mentality and way of thinking, and once you find that character, you'll see that, unlike in Tekken, when you're put into a situation you don't like in Tekken, there's usually only 1 or 2 answers. And usually, one of those 2 answers is a risky idea. So, like, for example, with, what's a good example? Okay, so if I'm Fang, you guys will know this. If I'm Fang and if I end a combo with forward 3-4, and then I do a tilde 3, which is the head spring, and they tech roll, I'm at frame advantage. Now, in this position, I have frame advantage on the opponent. Their options are basically to stand guard, crouch guard, sidestep in either direction, or backdash, or do an attack. Now, if you whittle that down, it's you either attack or you defend with movement, right? Now, out of all these options, the #1 best thing to do is to backdash, because it's the least risk. You'll be able to back out of things to make them whiff, you'll be able to block if they reach, and you didn't overextend yourself for an attack. Now, in this game, if you're put into a 50-50 situation, a lot of the time, it's better to either step guard, because, as I mentioned, it's like the backdash of this game. However, if you don't want to do the step guard, there are other good options. Like, you could GI, you could jump and see how that works out, you could do a jump attack, and then you can dive into the game's, like, character-specific options. So Yoshi can do a flash, he could do a spin, he could do a death copter, and all these things are designed in a way to be actually usable in a real situation. While in Tekken, it's like very situational. Like, you know, Yoshi has spins in that game, and Yoshi has death copters and shit, but they're not really designed in a way to be evasive. In that game, the design of that game is more about movement and skill in movement and training in movement. The characters' moves themselves are like Marduk's down back 1+2. You know, it works. It'll evade sometimes, but it's not like it's designed to be Nightmare 6-6B, where it'll just shut down tons of things. It'll just go around everything, you know? That's really, really rare in Tekken, and it's very common in this game, which is what makes it so interesting to me.
Right, like what I was telling you earlier, is the way I like to play is I'm really good at knowing where a person is not going to be blocking. And I feel like in the modern Tekkens, I can't do much with that skill.
Yeah.
Like, because lows are like kind of shitty, even if they do connect. If they don't connect, they're super fucking risky. Why even bother?
Yeah, lows over the years, Soul Calibur, I mean, Tekken's, just the system has made lows and throws less and less valuable to the point where, at this point in Tekken, doing a low is like you're risking half of your life bar every time because they could just do a hop kick at any moment. And it doesn't even require that much like timing or like anything specific. You just do it. Now, it's like on paper, it's a really bad idea. You know, like a good player would just be like, oh, you're going to do a hop kick, huh? Boom, backdash, boom, you're in the air. But it just happens so often that it makes the idea of lows just like a nightmare. It's just dangerous. In this game, lows are, the damage output is, what's the worst case scenario? You do a jump kick? If that's like nothing, you know, boom. 20 points damage. So he made a good read. He feels good about his read. But on my end, it's not like it took 50% of my life bar. I think if you do a while landing B, that's what the most damage you can do off a jump. Yeah, so I mean, how much is that? Do the second hit too, can you? Yeah, so, you know, that's not 20 points.
You can't see it because
I wonder if I change this to simple, does it show it here? Oh, it doesn't. But yeah, I mean, you can't do 50%. You can't punish someone's low for 50% in this game. So, that's really what I like about this game. If you can't punish someone's low for 50%, what that means is you have the ability to have offense.
Well, not only that, but I feel like in Tekken, when you get somebody with a low, usually it's like, okay, you're done. But in this game, you get to keep going usually.
Yeah, this game's designed in that way. Frame data works in that way, where if I hit with the low, what's a good example? Let's pick another character. I think it's a good idea to show. Oh, he's good.
Is he?
Yeah, down K. He's got the best down K in the game. But yeah, in this game, lows are designed in a way where if they hit, they're usually going to give you frames, and if they're blocked, they're usually going to be safe, so their retaliation can be GI. So I'm going to do his down K, you block it, and do a wall standing B.
Block it like this?
Yeah, do that. So this low, down K, is the best down kick in the game, and it's a generic looking down K, but if you look at it carefully, just stand up and let it hit you, this is +9 on hit. So if you're in this situation and you hit with it, you can basically interrupt anything he does afterwards. So let's say you try like a wall standing K. That's your fastest wall standing
After
move.
blocking?
No, on hit.
Oh. How can I do a wall standing?
Oh yeah, you're right. What's your fastest standing move? K, right? Do that. Look, you can't even lift your leg off the ground. It's so much frames on hit. So in Tekken, if you hit with something that's a low, usually you're not going to get that much frame advantage. And if you do, like for example, Fang's down back 3, that's +5 on hit. But it's +5 on hit and you're left in crouch. And from crouch, you only have limited options. So the opponent can narrow down everything you're going to do to like one of two things. So your follow-up is very risky. So there's no way I can accept people saying that Soul Calibur 2 is a turtley game, especially when, if you compare it to any other game, you can't attack in those other games. Soul Calibur 5, during my time playing that game, I felt like everything you do in that game was like a huge overextension of what you should be doing in a tournament match. Everyone knows defense wins. Everyone knows patience wins. I mean, you don't even have to read The Art of War to know that if you're more patient and you do the right type of defense, you're going to win. In that game, you can't just stand around. You have to commit to something, and that's the problem. In this game, when you commit, it's not that big of a risk. You know, if this same kick in Soul Calibur 5 would be launch punishable. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
And it would also not be plus on hit.
Yeah, it would be like
0 maybe, or -1, you know? That's how they always do it now. I really hate that design.
Yeah. Because, like, the way it works in this game is you get the flow. Like,
right, exactly. Even this shitty character. Like, if we talk about RAPHAEL, so down K, we've established that down K into while standing B is a frame trap. So now that we know down K while standing B is a frame trap, it allows us to do down K, which is also a frame trap. Low into low. Then, from there, we have 6BB and all kinds of offense. You know, and it becomes like this is what opens up your game. It's like, okay, now I'm able to use this one tool, this one down K, and I can open up an offense with that. Move in, use it when he's standing. Okay, is he going to step guard? I know that this is going to beat step guard. I'm going to use it. Put myself in an advantageous position, continue the offense, and then boom, you throw out a throw, whatever. And this is basically how the game evolves. From the beginning concepts, this is how you have to think to play this game at that level. The tug of war is has much more variation and much more. Like, you don't have to take turns in this game. In most other fighting games, you have to take turns. Tekken allows you, with movement, to not have to, and with the crush system. This game, the moves are designed to be that way. So, I mean, let's say, for example, we're talking about the scenario where I'm going to do 6BB, soul charge cancel, and then do a down K. You block that, and then do your 3B, right?
When do I do my 3B?
After you block the low.
You mean while standing B?
I'm sorry, while standing B, yeah.
Okay.
So in this offense scenario, he's on paper putting an end to that, but as I mentioned, you can GI it, and that's when GI comes into the game. GI, look, I sidestepped to his back because that's what would have happened if he did a 2G, and I got a back throw. You know, these are all opportunities that become opened up because I understand how the game system functions as opposed to the other Soul Calibur games. Yeah. I think that's a big problem for people.
You know what's going on in my head when you're using this string is like, fuck, that's so cheap that I can't punish you for reading that 2K, but then I realize, you know what, I could probably jump kick it.
Right. I mean, that's the way the thought process goes in this game. You're presented with a problem, and once that problem is there right in front of you, it's not like in Tekken where the best answer to that problem is always just let him do it and make it whiff and then whiff punish.
Yeah.
You know, that's always the best answer in Tekken. I mean, if you know he's going to do it, if RAPHAEL were a Tekken character and 6BB was blocked and then boom, this comes out and you know he's going to do that, backdash whiff punish is the answer, right? But in this game, that's not necessarily the answer. It can be whatever you want. It can be a GI. You could GI that if you wanted to. It could be a jump kick. It could be all kinds of different decisions, you know? So that's really that type of defensive freedom and equality of your choices and their value is what makes this game so interesting when it comes to that tug of war. That tug of war is way more spicy in this game. It's like you know, it's a
meatball.
Yeah, it's like a meatball. Not like a meatball. It's like it's good. Really delicious. It's like that epic burrito. Internet, I don't know if you guys have Del Taco near you, but I just tried something called an epic burrito at Del Taco. That shit has French fries. They got the crinkly cut. It has French fries, steak, nacho cheese, sour cream, and bacon. Can't go wrong with that. Really, really good, actually. Did you know both of those hit on the ground?
No, but you were backed, head down.
Hit me in the ground again with that shit.
Okay. I don't want to do this again. I forgot.
BG.
I know.
Yeah, that. Turn on the other side. I didn't know that kick hit on the ground. Huh, what the fuck?
It's so weird.
Yeah, I didn't know it
sideways.
Interesting. Huh. Anyway, so yeah, what other concepts do you think that this game has that are unlike or unique? I think that AAA idea is something they abandoned, and it's so important.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just making the people who play this game have to overcommit to everything. Like, there's no reason for me to have to do a BB. Why?
That's why Soul Calibur. Reason Soul Calibur 3 was so bad was because like I was Zazmasol. I don't even remember his real name, dude.
He didn't have one. They took him out of the game. He's
They
not
did?
even in Soul Calibur
Wow.
5. Yeah.
Yeah, so his BB was great, and I could just spam it all day long, but it's just mindless.
Yeah, and it's not only mindless, it's also really unappealing to watch. You know, it's like, oh, BB, 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 that's what you do, huh? Anytime. BB, yeah, that's some BBL shit.
BBL.
BBW, BBL. I mean, it's like, you know, having to... Oh, you're not? Having to overextend to an AA, which are 2 highs that could whiff, as opposed to just a single A, which is 1, is just really like a weird decision by them to make the series go in that direction. To me, it's unappealing. It really makes the flow of the game boring and predictable. In this game, the flow of the game could go in any direction. If you watch those tense matches, Dan, you just watched those matches of me against Dan the Nightmare. There were some situations that were just in the clutch. It was like you never knew what was going to happen because of GI.
Yeah.
At any moment, I could turn a 1-frame gap into a huge advantage for myself, and the same goes for the opponent. It's like all you need is those tiny, tiny frames to turn a situation in this game.
Right, so what it comes down to in summary is if you know what they're going to do next, you can usually screw them over.
You can screw them over, but not just in one way, in multiple positions.
Yeah.
Upside down, helicopter kicks, from behind, from above like a bird. You can do it however you want, you know? There's a lot of different ways to fuck your opponent in this game. Lots of different ways. And that's what's really so cool about it. And another thing that was a result of that is you ended up seeing things like how Dan was saying, we were watching Dan the Nightmare play Nightmare, but it was like watching a completely different character. The way he's using highs to get you to duck, he's not using Hell Sweep, he's using these moves that in his playstyle have good uses, but in Dan's playstyle, he's like, I never used that, why would he use that? It's really interesting, the result. That feeling that Dan got from watching that is a result of this game giving you options. It's really like it opens up a problem-solving like rainbow or palette, and at that point you can select which ones you want to do in this situation. And another thing that's cool about this, what the hell, talking shit?
How come Aris is balding?
Oh, I don't know, genetics, I guess. What can I do? I'm not balding anywhere else, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, it really gives you a ton of options to solve all your problems. I mean, that's what I always loved about it. I hate being put into a situation in Tekken where I know what the answer is, everyone knows what the answer is, and if you don't do it right, you're doing it wrong. It's like, it's so uncreative. You know, this game is really, really creative. Like, you can just do whatever you want. Tons of options. Freedom is really the key. Go ahead.
Well, I was just agreeing.
I mean, that's what was appealing to me in this game, because someone as bland and boring and turtly as Dan, who loves to do the same moves over and over again, can play his style and succeed, and someone with charismatic and robust and with a full head of hair like myself can play that way however they want, and they can succeed as well. That's really what was appealing to me about this game. Anyway, I mean, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. Do you have anything else that you want to cover before we tell everyone to go fuck themselves?
I don't know, you want me to check that list of things, or is that way?
I mean, I think that's it.
That's it?
Right? Oh, you have to call someone a bitch.
I have to call somebody a bitch? I'm going to call Aris a bitch.
Why are you going to call me a bitch?
You know, you're balding.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Like a bitch.
You're a fucking bitch. There's no way you could call me a bitch.
Why?
Let me tell you something, Internet. Before we go, I'm going to show you guys why I got good at this game. This guy was such a piece of shit. I was a little kid fucking going to the arcade with a pocket full of tokens. This guy would use 2 moves to kick the shit out of me all night. The same 2 moves, over and over. I couldn't do anything. This was before Step Guard came out, before everything. And, man, I'm going to show you guys something interesting in this game. So, when this game first came out, Valdo really fucking was, like, not good at beating Nightmare. The reason is, no matter what Valdo does, no matter what stance he's in, 3B is going to fuck him up. If I'm in this stance, 3B, just do that shit over and over. I mean, there's nothing I can do, basically. If I'm at range and he's playing keep out, if I come in with any of the moves that I want to come in with, 6-6B is going to beat them. It's like, it was an extremely frustrating match. Another thing is, let me show the fucking throw bug. Look at this shit! Are you guys watching this shit? Are you guys watching this shit? Look at this fucking bullshit. This is what I had to deal with growing up. This is what I was dealing with. Fucking throw this bitch with this character. So, as you can imagine, as a matchup, this was extremely frustrating for me. It was like unwinnable. I mean, not only does 6-6B from Nightmare beat half of my moves, and 3B beat the other half, but I can't even throw him. So it's becoming like this is an unwinnable matchup. Then, as the game evolved and Step Guard came out, I began to realize that I don't have to deal with things like do your 6A and AGA and shit.
6A?
Yeah, all those moves. When you're up close, you have to deal with these. You can't 8-way run. You can't move around. They're all going to hit you, and they're good keep-out moves. And they're good on block. So it's like really, really was frustrating. Now that Step Guard came out, I can just block. I'm just going to block. No problem. I'm just blocking all this shit. Doesn't matter what he does. So if I move, so here's the theory. When I'm step guarding, I'm basically option selecting. So he's doing AGA and all those moves, but if he does the sweet move, the 3B, the one that they all want to do, it's going to whiff. Just like that. So that's how the matchup changed. Once Step Guard came out, I realized that all you have to do is sidestep to the left over and over and over again. And if he ever does a fucking A, he's never going to hit me because I'm blocking it, except for right there. But if he if he ever does an A, I'm going to block it every time. And if he ever does a B, I'm going to make it whiff and I'm going to punish. And if it doesn't whiff, I'm going to block that too. Now the next thing that makes Voldo good against Nightmare is when 2G was discovered. So the game first came out, do 3B and block again. You do 3B and block and you can punish it, as I mentioned earlier. So then 2G is discovered, and you could 2G and block everything I do, right? So now, then it was discovered that the only thing you could do to beat Nightmare once he does a 2G is to do a down kick. Now, if do a 3B into a down kick.
3B into a down kick?
Yeah, into a night backstance kick.
Okay.
So this scenario is where you're stuck. 3B into night backstance K. What you have to do is do something that beats that, but is low. That's really the key to beating Nightmare's 3B. You have to beat it with something that's low that beats the K. Now, AA obviously won't work because it's high. In this case, Voldo's down K, the wheelchair kick, hits 100% of the time from almost every range. It always is going to reach. And so this is another reason why this matchup became pretty good for Voldo. Anytime he does that move, you're going to be able to punish it. Not every character can punish this move every time from every range. Now do 6-6KB.
6-6K? Oh, sorry, 6-6K.
Yeah, that. Same thing goes for that. He's in night backstance and he can't do anything about a wheelchair kick. So that's really, really good. Another move is a while standing B. Do while standing B. That's another move that he can't do anything about. So it's like really, really like, okay, things are starting to shift, right? This is an interesting match for Voldo because now I'm able to move and make the things he's doing to keep me out with, etc., etc. Then I discovered that his 6-6B, do the 6-6B, if I have a read on that move, my 2-2A is going to beat it no matter what. It's never going to lose to that shit, except for right there. But this is not a real match. You got to understand, you do it when, you know, it's coming out. At the right time, if he does it at the right time, like do it after, you know, anytime if I think he's going to do the move and I do this move, it's always going to hit it. The only reason the second one's working is because you're all the way to my right when you're starting the next 6-6B. But yeah, that move really will beat 6-6B. So after this matchup, I started to think about this matchup more. I discovered that it's actually in the other direction. It's actually a flip matchup where Voldo has an advantage, maybe like 6-4. Another thing to get around that throw whiffing thing, which I cannot stand, even now when it happens, you have to hold guard. It's so fucking stupid. But that shit, to get around that, I realized all you have to do, since I'm already step guarding all the time, is step and then throw. If you step and then throw, you step enough. Look at it. Nightmare is not going to pivot to follow you until you step too much. But if I step once, he's only at an angle, and he's not going to be able to like realign his body because I didn't step too much. and that's where a throw will hit. So I think the moral of this story that I learned, the lesson that I learned about this as a fighting game player, the thing that I took away from this is that if you have a really bad matchup presented in front of you, you should really, really go the extra mile. If you really, really want to use your character, you should go the extra mile and try to think outside the box to figure out a way to beat the opponent's character. Because a lot of the time, especially if the game has this type of system where it's free, the tug of war is malleable, it's really possible to overcome bad matchups. That's not necessarily the case in games like Street Fighter because it's so limited. But if you look at Third Strike, that is a huge fucking case. In the end of Third Strike, Charles was just talking about how Ibuki was hella fucking people up, Q was hella fucking people up, and it's because the system of that game allows even shitty characters to compete with good characters if the player is able to manipulate the system well. So, I don't know, I always found that the evolution of these two characters in this game, I always found that to be really interesting. Just because it was so odd. When the game first released, it was totally lopsided, and then at the end of the game's lifespan, it just took a turn for the worse for this guy. But it's still a tough match. Again, you have to remember that you have to play super, just smart and don't fuck up, because as soon as you fuck up, 3B right in the butthole. It's coming, and that's really an interesting matchup. Anyway, so your bitch calling is me, my bitch calling is you.
You get one every time?
You can have more.
No, you get one every time?
Why the fuck wouldn't I? It's my show.
Just why you normally do that.
Yeah, I usually call people bitches. Anyway, internet. Oh yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this in last week's show, but I talked to Mark, man. I haven't figured out exactly when, but he's going to be hooking it up with a new batch of arcade sticks at a discounted price for us. So that's really, really cool, supporting the stream. I really appreciate that. What?
69 bitch calling.
69 bitch calling? Oh yeah, that makes sense. 6-on-9 team tournament. Anyway, so yeah, keep your eyes on that. I'll put a post up or, something when it's time for that to happen.
They're asking about Cervantes' secret throw. What's that mean?
Can you show the Cervantes secret throw?
Do you know what that is?